It only took 3 seconds for the bar to go silent. The moment their fists landed on her, the truth about who she really was began to unfold. Her name was Elena Ward. To most people, she looked like a quiet woman who worked too many hours and kept to herself. Her clothes were simple, her conversations brief. She never bragged, never flaunted anything, and never drew attention to her presence. Most evenings, after completing her assignments, she sat alone in a corner booth of a small off-base bar. A dusty place with low lights, worn-out wooden floors, scratched tables, and regulars who told stories bigger than their wallets. Nobody knew she was military. Even fewer knew she wasn't just military. Elena was a covert field operative, one of those rare soldiers trained in the shadows. She worked under a special branch that technically didn't exist on paper. Her missions carried no medals, no public recognition, and no room for failure. She had learned early that blending in was part of survival. If the world believed she was harmless, she could move through it without interference. That was how she preferred it. On this particular night, she sat in her usual booth with a notebook open, writing quietly. For the first time in weeks, she looked relaxed, her guard lowered if only by a small degree. She had just finished a mission overseas. It had cost her more sleep and more scars than she cared to count. Now, she only wanted one peaceful night before she returned to base for her next deployment. Briefing, but peace is never guaranteed, especially in places filled with men who fought without truly understanding the price of war. A group of 4 Marines crashed into the bar with the loud confidence of young soldiers who believed strength was proven by volume. They had just completed field exercises and, fueled by adrenaline and alcohol, walked like conquerors returning from a great victory. They spotted Elena sitting alone, a woman in a corner. Booth. Not wearing a uniform, not drinking anything. Stronger than water. The perfect target for attention they thought she should be grateful to receive. One of them, broad-shouldered and overconfident, swaggered over. "Hey there. You waiting for someone?" She didn't look up from her notebook. "No, just writing." He smirked, not used to being dismissed. "Writing? Must be something important." His friend snickered from the bar counter. Elena closed the notebook slowly. "Just thoughts. Nothing worth your time." He sat across from her without asking. "Everything is worth my time." She exhaled calmly. "I like to continue alone." The Marine lifted his chin, offended. "Hey, I'm trying to be friendly." She didn't answer. Silence was her shield, but silence can provoke those who need ego more than respect. His friend joined, leaning on the table. "You think you're too good to talk to Marines?" She answered in the same calm tone. "I think I asked for space." One of them scoffed. Probably a civilian. No clue what service means. If they only knew. She tried to stand and walk away, but one of them grabbed her wrist. His grip was sloppy, but strong. "That's rude. We're talking to you." It was meant to intimidate. It didn't. But she kept her reaction restrained. She had spent years mastering self-control. She knew the consequences of acting too early. When she pulled her hand back gently, another Marine stepped forward, anger tightening his posture. "You're not just walking away." Before she could decide if the situation required escalation, one of them shoved her shoulder. Harder than necessary. Not enough to injure, but enough to make a point. The bar patrons turned to watch. Some smirked. Some looked away. Nobody intervened. She straightened, steady as stone. "I'm giving you one last chance to rethink your actions." They laughed. A woman with no visible rank and no uniform was threatening them? Impossible. The shove came again, this time to her ribs. Then the first punch landed. To the Marines. She was one woman alone. To reality. She was something else entirely. Elena's training wasn't the kind taught in boot camps. She had been shaped by specialists who believed the battle was decided before the first blow. Pain didn't shock her. Surprise didn't freeze her. Fear didn't exist in her system. With one controlled breath, she shifted from civilian silence to professional efficiency. Her hand shot up and trapped the wrist of the Marine who swung at her. His punch never landed again. A precise twist took his balance, and he dropped to one knee before he even processed the movement. The second Marine lunged. She sidestepped and delivered a single strike to the sternum that emptied his lungs. The third tried to grab her from behind. Elena bent forward, pivoted, and threw him over her shoulder. He crashed onto the table, splintering wood beneath him. The bar had gone still. The fourth Marine stood frozen. "Who the hell are you?" Elena didn't answer. She didn't have to. The door of the bar swung open. A senior officer strode in, still smelling of the wind from outside. One glance at the scene, and his expression changed from annoyance to grim recognition. He looked at the Marines lying on the floor, then at Elena. What did they do? Elena simply said, "Enough to learn a lesson." The officer turned to the stunned soldiers. "You idiots just attacked someone who outranks half the base. She's not a civilian. She's special operations." Their faces drained of color. Everything they assumed had just been destroyed. He continued, "She's completed missions none of you will ever be cleared to read about. And while you were out here acting tough, she was doing the work that keeps this country alive." The room was silent. The Marines scrambled to their feet, stammering apologies. They expected anger. They expected punishment. They expected the worst. Instead, Elena looked at them with eyes not filled with rage, but with something far heavier. Experience. Sorrow. Understanding. She said quietly, "You think strength is about who can hit the hardest in a bar. When you've held lives in your hands, you'll realize strength is being able to stop yourself." Her words hit harder than any strike she had delivered. They looked down. Ashamed. One Marine forced out a whisper. "How do we learn what you know?" Elena picked up her notebook. "First, learn respect. For others and for yourself. Everything else comes later." She walked away with the calm of someone who had already survived storms much bigger than this moment. After that night, the story spread quickly, not because she bragged. Not because the officer announced it, but because the Marines themselves told everyone they could, not about how she beat them, but about how she carried herself afterward. No anger. No ego. Only a lesson they needed to learn. And slowly, the noisy young soldiers became quieter, more observant, more disciplined. Some even sought her guidance behind closed doors because they understood now that true warriors walk softly, speak little, and strike only with purpose. What did this story make you feel? Where are you watching from? Subscribe to Soul Relief Stories for more real stories that heal the heart.